Let's talk about comics. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
We were saying, like, I was just telling you, like, you were just telling me, and I was affirming that I had a similar experience, which is every weekend for the past 6 weeks, we've been going from place to place.
Yeah.
I got this comic at CXC, right? Shaheen Beardsley.
Where was CXC?
CXC was in Columbus. It's Cartoon Crossroads Columbus.
Cool.
And it's in Columbus, Ohio, and it's put on by the Billy Ireland Cartoon and Comic Book Museum. It's done with public funds, actually, and it's hosted. Yeah, it's hosted at the library in downtown Columbus.
Cool.
The library is beautiful. The show was amazing. The people are cool, and I got to go onto Ohio State University campus where Shaheen has their studio.
Oh.
And they just handed me this book, and they were like, "Here, check it out."
Cool.
So it was really fun. The book is beautiful. I love the way it's drawn.
Yeah, I like this little spot here because I can't quite tell if this was like something you did while you were reading it. But then I was looking at it and I was like, oh, this is like a technique that they're using with this little thumbprint. It's like it really stands out amongst the line work.
Yeah, I like it too. It's like it looks like a drop of ink that they wiped and then pressed with their finger because there's like lines from the fingerprint.
If that were me, I would just draw a little blob. But this is way more effective.
Yeah, I like that too. That's a nice touch.
I love a full panel sound effect. That's something I'd like to do more of.
Yeah, we should probably get into like sound effects as one episode. That would be fun.
The whole thing.
I like that it's just, there's definitely like full frontal male nudity.
Oh yeah, and
that.
So I'm not sure I guess you'd have to ask them, but Oh Boy Comics, I guess this is like a series, like eight ball or something.
Sure.
I had the collection. But I actually don't know if that was like a collection of individual issues or not. But anyway, I love the artwork. It was full color though. I really like this single color more.
It's nice.
This line work is so great.
They're doing it on Arizo too.
Mm-hmm. And like the line work is like so precise. I feel like unless the colors are like really, really balanced and really interesting, and they're choosing a color palette that like really works for what's going on, it just sucks the life out of this kind of line work.
Oh, yes, often. I agree. Right. When you go full color with something like this, unless the colorist is like gifted in their own right, like, or whatever.
Oh wow, look at this.
That's cool.
That's a beautiful.
I grew up in places where it was like this, right?
Me too.
I grew up in the Midwest, and there'd be these massive towers, and you could hear the humming of them and the like almost static popping.
Yeah, my dad and I used to go sledding in a space that looked almost exactly like this. All you could see like some suburban houses in the background, but
a pretty surreal kind of thing, right? Like these as an artifact, like if you didn't know what these were, right? Like we know that they carry electricity because we grew up around them, but just in the abstract, they're so strange. Like
it's actually a pretty cool tattoo.
Massive power things.
I
think I'm just like done getting tattoos.
Really?
I just can't anymore. It's like a weed whacker of fire under my skin.
You mean just pain wise?
I'm fully covered in tattoos, but it's like I'm just done now. Yeah. I'm like the last tattoo I got, I'm like, that's enough.
I know one of my buddies is he's also covered, but he's also it's like what's that Zeno's paradox where like you can keep subdividing and without ever getting to zero.
Yeah,
He's just like, oh, maybe the space next to my fingernail I can get a tattoo in here.
Did you talk about Zeno's paradox last time?
I might have. It's such a corny thing to bring up because like everybody knows what it is.
I was like, I feel like I just heard about that recently. My thing with tattoos is like everybody has tattoos now. Yeah. It doesn't mean anything anymore.
Well, it means something to you.
Right? Well, yeah, I guess. I don't really get tattoos for that reason, though. I'm
not like to show off.
No, I'm not attributing a meaning to them. I just like them.
Yeah, no, me too.
I just get them. So I'm like, put that on me. I don't like ascribe a bunch of meaning to it. But what I'm saying is everyone has them. So it used to be like, I don't know, you were.
It used to be illegal
or dangerous.
It was illegal in New York until very recent. I think until the 80s, maybe it wasn't like officially legal.
That's
until like weirdly recently, it was illegal.
I think you're right.
To
it
give
was like
them, maybe
late
not
80s, early 90s or something. Well, definitely you could have them, but you just couldn't give them in New York City.
I love a animal headbutt.
I also like the strolling through the forest.
Yeah, this is great. The way this person draws is really tremendous. I love
that's cool.
The body language is great.
And the cool like Tintin watermelon seed eyes, which I love.
Yeah, which is overused, but in this context works really well.
I think it's good.
Sometimes I think it's kind of a cop out. Like I'm just such a fan of eyes as an expressive part of the body.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
That I think sometimes people wuss out by just doing the dots, but I really like it. Great panel right here.
Yeah. So when I remember there was some talk about this scene, and it was like, oh yeah, Nate would love this.
This would be a good segue into one of the other books that you wanted to talk about earlier that also involves a horse. All right, so I don't want to spoil this book too much because apparently there's some important things happening on these pages. But
yeah,
I'm gonna say I highly recommend. I'm gonna say I highly recommend this one. It looks
awesome.
Great.
Yeah. Oh Boy Comics number 7. Really cool.
Shaheen
Beardsley knocked it out of the park with this one, and is a pretty chill dude. Like, I don't know what their pronouns are or whatever, but
dude, I think is gender specific.
Well, I mean it in the best of intention. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I'm open to have a discussion. Anyway, they are rad, and I really enjoyed their book, and I was really stoked that they were so kind to give me one, gift it to me.
Yeah. All right. Good segue into this book. Tell us about this one.
All right. So
is this also Columbus?
This is I got this in Columbus, but this crew, the Extreme Corp Comics, they're a crew of about 4 really cool dudes that are from, they're from Detroit actually, or they're Michigan based.
Cool.
Okay. And when I got this, I had seen this online. I'd seen this on Instagram before, and of course, with the name so wonderful as Horserer, I immediately said, like, fuck you for that. Dude.
Yeah.
I wanted the Horserer.
How dare you?
How dare you invent something so great before I did? Anyway. Extreme Comics Corp, they're super cool.
So it's a bunch of people?
Or? Yeah, it's like 4. I think there are 4 of them. Maybe, it might be like a loose thing where they have like members come in and out. I'm not sure the whole thing.
Sure.
But I did table next to them at the Gutter Boys show after CXC. That was a fun day because after having no sleep.
Wait, does that say Forker?
I think it says Horserer.
Oh.
But it does look like Forker.
I was like, why did they customize this book for you?
It does kind of look like it. O-R, and then it could be a K in here, E-R. Yeah. This could just be a big K.
E-R, no, it does say Horserer. Okay, I see it.
I see it too.
Also, that rules. This is the intestines
so
of that guy. That's awesome.
You can't do this in a movie, you know what I mean?
No.
So, I tabled next to them at the Gutter Boys after party show. And this was after day 1 of CXC. Cool melting face there. Yeah. They're super cool. I have another book by them that I want to show right now because I think it's good. Yeah. And this is the Bonehead magazine. This is issue 1. Interesting, like, throwback to the beginning of CGI.
Yeah, what is going on this cover?
I have no idea how they did this at all.
Is it maybe like a Photoshop collage or
It must be, right? It looks like old CGI, like Lawnmower Man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what I think of.
It's like Fangoria cover.
So here are 4 of the people that are in. It's Wolf Baker, Dungeon Critter, Ghostface Chilla, and Vomit Czar.
Cool.
This is your Extreme Core crew, at least at the moment, right?
Yeah.
This is just fun. I like all this stuff. These people are super fun and cool. All really chill.
Do we know anything about, like, is this their first book? Are they like have they been in the game for a while? Like, I've never heard of these people.
I only know of them through Instagram. I think they're up and coming. I don't know of them before, but I don't know everything. There's more than one thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know everything. Yeah, no, I know. It's a good question. I'm saying, like, I agree. I'm also curious.
I think one of the coolest things about, like, going to shows and tabling at shows too is, like, there are, like, in this world there are, like, mini celebrities, right? There's like the Klaus and Hanselman and Burns and all. They're like, there are the big names, but, like, just like any other medium, there's a million people that are not famous in the medium making stuff.
Right.
And I think, like, you could meet someone. Yeah, that is cool. I like the colors on this too. You could meet someone at a table and have no idea how long they've been doing this, right? Yeah. You can they might have 5 books and have been doing this for 30 years, and so I'm just always curious.
Or doing it for 1 year and have 13 books.
Completely, yeah.
I was a fan of Dungeon Critter for years now. I've been following them on Instagram, and when I met
this, a repeating pattern. Hang on, sorry.
When I met this crew, I think so. It might be.
There's some weird collage. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's like a step and repeat.
Yeah. wait, in like on the runway?
Yeah, that's what they call it, a step and repeat. When you're like,
they should do this for like the Grammys. You should have to stand in front of this to get your picture taken with Justin Timberlake.
I love it. I was a fan of Dungeon Critter for years on Instagram, and then I'm tabling right next to them, and it wasn't until after I left the show We'll move this down to move some of that glare.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't until after I left the show that I was like, oh, that was Dungeon Critter?
Oh,
I was like
damn.
chatting with them. But you know, it's weird. You don't go around and introduce yourself by your Instagram name.
That's true.
Right? You're not like, hi, I'm so-and-so. I mean, you did say that to me when I first met you, but that's okay. That's not the point. Yeah, you're like, I do this thing by, you know, it was chill. It wasn't like haughty or anything. Mm-hmm. But I'm saying, like, I wish more people would do that is the point. Because if this dude would have said, oh yeah, I post as Dungeon Critter, I would have fanned out, you know? I'd have been like, oh, I love Dungeon Critter, you know?
Maybe it's kind of cooler though to play it low.
Yeah, it is cool. But all these dudes are really cool. Extreme Core out of Michigan.
Cool.
And I got a bunch of the Horseler books, not just number one, but for the sake of time, I thought maybe we would talk about it.
So I got this at PCX last weekend, the Philadelphia Comics Expo.
Yeah, Philly Comics Expo.
Yeah, Philly Comics Expo put on by Partners and Son. Cool shop.
Great show too. This is the second year, and both years have been plagued by cold and rain. Unfortunately,
this isn't so bad though.
Outdoor pavilion, but yeah, that leads me to our next point, which is Philly still shows up
100%
in the cold and the rain. People were that place was hopping. I sold a ton of books there.
So did I. It was really successful. I met a lot of cool people, and not only was the weather shitty. I took a lift from where we were staying in South Philly, and the entire like surrounding area was police taped off for something like a bike race or something.
Yeah.
So you could not drive to the space.
So
you could not drive to the venue.
So it was prohibited by that too.
But people probably took public transport, walked, and whatever. But yeah, it was great. Really great show. Really
the
well.
elements working against it, unfortunately.
Yeah, but it was fine. It was really well organized. I mean, Partners and Son put up so much effort into that space. Like they spent all week like hammering up those protective tarps and stuff. That stuff is really appreciated because it's a lot of it's volunteer work.
That makes all the difference too. Like having those plastic tarps on an open air pavilion means you're not like going home with pneumonia.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And
like,
your shit doesn't get wet.
Exactly. Like, I mean, the humidity in the air was such that, like, if you had paper products on the table...
Yeah, they crinkled a little.
They crinkle, buckle. But it's like... But that tarp made all the difference. Because sitting there in the cold damp all day was really tough.
Yeah. And I kind of like that, too. I think it's, like... It's disarming a little bit. You know what I mean? My books are made on a Xerox machine. They're not they're not printed by Pantheon. Like...
Yeah.
They're $5 books if they get crinkled. People still bought the crinkled ones, like they didn't care.
Yeah, same. Yeah. I was like, oh, as they would leave, I'd be like, no, I'll give you a different, like, that's the display copy. They're like already gone. I was like, all right, cool.
That was great.
I think Philly always shows up. I have been consistently impressed by Philly every time I go there. I love the vibe. I love the people. It's like working class. They're rowdy. Like, I love it.
Yeah.
Like, I love the Philly vibe. So every excuse I get to go there, I'm happy. And like all these cartoonists have moved there recently. Like Pettinger moved there. Caroline Cash just moved there. They got C. Montgomery Burns.
The Reptile House.
They got Nick Bunch in Reptile House. That dude's super cool.
Yeah.
They got quite the crew. They got Nate Garcia's down there. You know, like Dreamy Guts. A lot of great cartoonists are based in Philly. So any excuse I get to go to Philly, I'm happy to do it.
That was great. I loved it. We were there all weekend, staying with some friends. We toured around the area. We went to the Partners and Son like after party, which was
fun too.
Great. Like got to talk to a few people. For a longer period of time.
I had to leave that after party, and by the time I got to the train station, my train had been delayed 1 hour and 50 minutes. Oh, bummer. I was like, I could have just stayed and partied.
Go back. Philadelphia's not that big.
I know, so I was gonna go back, but then I got on another train, and then I get to Newark, and there were power lines on the track, and I had to switch to the PATH train. But you know what? The whole time I'm thinking is like, delays just provide unforeseen benefits. So I'm like, I'm gonna get home safe. I could have been in the middle of this.
That's true.
And I wasn't. And I had an option to get home. Like, I still had the PATH train to carry me home.
Yeah.
Like, if it
Plus,
were
you had all these books you could read on there.
That's right. If it were anywhere else, think about it, right? You're trying to get a plane out of Kentucky or whatever. There's one plane, it goes down. That's it.
Yeah.
You don't have another option.
That's true.
But when you're headed to New York, like, all roads lead to Rome. Yeah. So there's, like, many options. Anyway, let's talk about this book.
Northeast Corridor is a good place to be.
So you got this from Brian, right?
I got this from Brian Bubbles. Brian Baines.
Brian Bubbles. It's okay to remember. It's like B, 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 B. 3 B's in Bubbles, 2 B's in his name.
Love Brian. Love everything he's doing. Anyway, he said he found this, not found, but like he discovered this guy on Instagram and just really liked his stuff and ordered some of his or their zines. And these zines are now compiled in a book published by Bubbles. Cool. So Brian's helping publish this book. So I think the pre-order is ending soon. this book is maybe not.
That's a good price too, $20.
Yeah, all the paper's really nice. I love this. Like,
is it newsprint?
It's newsprint-ish or newsprint like adjacent.
Yeah, it looks like newsprint.
But I mean, the cover A I think is really super rad, and I love the line work of this book. Like they're these kind of surreal like slice of life stories. It's kind of like taking a real circumstance and injecting some strangeness into it. But it has this scratchy. But the scratchy precision that I just really like, and a lot of variety too. And I think it's rare that you see like the heavier lines in the background and the lighter lines in the foreground. Sure. And it's just it's like seems to abide by its own rules, or it's like kind of creating its own little language. Mm-hmm. Really, really impressed with how this book is drawn. The stories I like, I'm kind of like, it's not I'm not like shedding any tears over it or whatever. But I
wonder when I see art like this, I'm curious like. Are they trying to approximate reality? Like they're going for realism and this is what comes out? Or is it like a considered notion where they're like, okay, I'm going to cartoon in such a way where I'm going to like apply some of the craft and then skew towards a naive hand? Or is it like just really earnest and they're just like, this is the way that I draw?
Yeah, this is a question that like haunts me every time I read anything. Like I'm constantly thinking about this idea because with my drawing, I'm always looking like my drawings don't look like the stuff that I love. Like the stuff I love the most is like this kind of stuff. It's like it's like paper rodeo.
Right.
It's like stuff that it's like so loose and so raw, and my artwork doesn't look like this at all.
I'm the same way. Like I like stuff like that. You know, we were just looking at like the Sinner books, like the Munoz and stuff. Like I like stuff like one of my favorite artists in the world is Josh Bayer. Right. My work doesn't look like his. When I put my pen to paper, eyeballs come out.
It doesn't make those lines.
You know what I mean? It doesn't make those lines. It makes like other lines in a totally different style. And I was talking to Austin English and I was like, do you think like my stuff's more mainstream? And he's like, no. I just think you're making art in a style of the independents from a previous generation.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh, I never thought about it that way.
Yeah. But like amazing faces. There's a great sequence over here where like this guy is like a nervous scene where he basically stole this piece of jewelry from this guy and now he's trying to sell it back to him because he's the only person in town who knows what it is. But I love like, look at this, like the sweat gets worse and worse and then his whole face turns to sweat and then this guy's, his eyeballs go like sideways. And just this sequence has like so much tension to it. I was like, this was the page, it's early on, it's like page 12. And this was the page where I was like, oh, this stuff is legit. I love this.
Yeah, that's really cool. This looks great.
And you know, there's cool little smudgy textures and stuff in here. There's just like so much going on. But to your question, like I have no.
Almost looks like Ernest there.
Yeah. Ernest takes India.
Ernest goes to camp.
And Ernest is from India, as far as I can tell. But to your question earlier, like the sincerity of like where the style comes from, I'm like desperate to ask every artist that question because I have no idea.
I always just assume everyone's just putting their pen to paper in a really honest way, and this is what comes out.
Just doing the best, yeah.
And they're just doing the best version that they can.
Like this is definitely, I think, drawn from observation, probably. Yeah. But not from a photograph. It doesn't feel like.
Right.
It doesn't feel like pasted in there.
That's interesting too because you can tell, like there is a distinct difference, albeit very subtle one. When you draw something from observation versus when you have a study like a photograph.
Yeah, I'm not against the photographic thing. I mean,
I think do whatever you want as long as it works together. Like it doesn't matter. Like
completely.
Yeah.
We were talking about motion lines last time. Here's some motion.
Oh yeah. Or next time. But there is a lot of motion in this sequence.
No spoilers here, but whatever. He's pissed and he's tearing his photo studio apart in this just like incredible. This also like this story has such a brutal ending. Let's give it.
It's wild that when people destroy their own things. Like, I think as a human, like, as an act of human behavior, when you're so mad that you destroy your own stuff, I've never been that type of person.
Yeah, it's like, oh god, now I'm blanking on who it was. But it's like when you see, like, people where, some celebrity will be, I think it's Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro said something against Trump a while ago, and there are all these great videos of, like, these Jersey Goombas with like a framed signed headshot of Robert De Niro on the wall, and they're like, "Never again will I watch a De Niro movie," and then they throw this thing they love in the garbage.
Or like when everyone was mad at Bud Light. They're like buying cases of Bud Light to shoot with their guns or pour it out, and it's like you bought it. You bought it. You spent money on it.
Yeah.
Like,
or they
what are you doing?
Set their football jersey on fire or something. It's such a delight. But look at the mark making in this panel. I think is like so wild too.
That's great. I mean, that looks like it's fully on fire.
Yeah. To me. I mean, the shadows are great.
Beautiful. This is like Harriman level,
hatching. I hadn't thought of that. That's a good comparison, though. And then the ground has those little bumps and like it's one of those things that seems like it shouldn't work as well as it does. Like it's kind of all over the place, but it holds together in this amazing dynamic style. Anyway, I've only read a couple of these and the book's not quite out yet, so I don't want to like go through it too much.
Well, that's a good point, and I'm glad you brought that up because we can just preface or whatever, like insert that information into this now, which is we're talking about books that we've rounded up from the past shows we've been to. Right. So we were saying like for the past 6 weeks, we've been like every weekend we've had something to do.
Yeah.
Whether we were at Philly Comics Expo or I was at Small Press Expo in Bethesda or Cartoons Crossroads Columbus, like we've been at shows every weekend. We were saying this is the first weekend we don't have that.
Yeah, and so tomorrow I'm gonna spend all day inking. Basically, I'm so excited.
I can't wait.
It's gonna be raining. I'm gonna sit inside inking all day.
I can't wait. I'm about to put in the last few pages of book 13.
Cool.
Like it's all done. I'll show it to you after. I'm missing like a page, and I got to do just a couple, like one panel, one page, and a bunch of lettering. Like the odds and ends you have to do at the end, like edits and drop in Zipatone and stuff. So that's it. But book 13 is almost done. Like I'm so excited.
Sweet. Yeah. Do you have any kind of like schedule, or do you just when it's done you crank it out?
Well, last year I did a monthly schedule.
Oh, that's right.
But this year I'm just like, we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
It's like I took 1 year on and then this year off. It was all about like last year put out as much as I can, as often as I can, and this year it's like it takes as long as it takes. We'll see, like, and then somewhere in the middle I'll land hopefully. And it's Goldilocks all the time, you know.
Yeah.
One's too hot, one's too cold, and then next year hopefully
it'll be just right.
This looks amazing though.
Yeah, I'm really excited to finish this up. I started a couple days ago, and I was just like, this is the thing I'm looking for. Like when I go to shows and stuff, when I go in terms of discovering new things, like I don't want boxes and boxes of like the same old thing. Like I want something that's expressive and it's coming from like a perspective that I don't have, right? It's coming from a different part of the world. It's coming from this person who has a life experience that has nothing to do with mine, and yet you can find it. Like this is the beauty of art, and that's a corny, obvious aphorism, but like you can connect with these people you'll never meet through this like middle dimension of the artwork.
Yeah. My thing is that I'm never quite sure. I just noticed like maybe these are little bubbles that artists put in there. Did you ever
Brian was like, I'm not publishing the book unless there's bubbles on it.
No, I think I think Anon probably just did that as a little nod, you know?
I don't know, maybe.
Because that's something like I don't know. Anyway, I never know who to.
It's everybody part of the branding, the marketing team, Bubbles Inc.
Everybody has their new thing, and everyone's excited about that new thing. I never know whose new thing I'm gonna vibe with.
Yeah,
because they're all equally excited about it.
Yeah.
So it's nice to see offerings from like Brian Baines and Bubbles. See like who's offering what, and then kind of calibrate your taste that way. Like who can I trust that's gonna put out stuff that I also like, you know, that kind of thing.
And that's why going to these shows as an artist is so cool too, because you don't like going as a fan. I always end up with less stuff, I think, because I'm not there as long. And so especially like a 2-day show like TCAF, where like you end up meeting friends and meeting people, and you actually end up walking the show maybe 2 or 3 times. Like I feel like as an artist tabling at these shows, I end up with more stuff because I get to actually dig in a little bit deeper and meet the people. Like I might walk past the table just because aesthetically I'm not that into it. Like I think if I didn't know Brian, and I wouldn't give this a second shot, honestly, based on the cover. I'd be like, these colors or whatever, like it's a guy looking out the window, like this says nothing to me.
The cover wouldn't have grabbed me.
Yeah, but knowing him and knowing his taste and being kind of like,
you can trust his
I feel like I can trust it at least enough to stop at the table, and so you spend a little extra time there. Do you know Kevin Fong? He's like Professor Warmington on Instagram.
Yeah, Kevin Fong. Yeah,
that guy is such. I was talking to him. Well, actually, he came out with us after the Partner and Son show. We hung out for a while.
He's great.
I love that guy, and he is like such a G about going to shows because he talks to everybody. He's there for hours. He talks to everybody. He gets a stack of books.
He talks to everybody,
and he's just like the nicest dude. And I never do that as a browser of shows.
Yeah.
I'll breeze through and be like, this looks cool, this looks cool, I'm out.
Well, that's like the classic like man way to shop. You're like, I have my 3 targets. I must assimilate targets and then leave as quickly as possible.
Other shit to do, yeah.
I gotta go. I want this, this, and this. That's how I grocery shop, right?
Yeah.
But my partner does it. My partner will breeze in and look at everything and hold it and weigh it in their hands and like do that whole thing. That's not me. I'm like, I gotta get rice, milk, whatever I gotta get and get out. You know, and that's kind of how I've been at the shows. But lately, you know, I met Kevin 2 years ago at the Pictou Beach Rockaway Boulevard show. Nice. Randomly, we just sat down next to each other, and then I was like, "Hey man, blah blah blah," and he's like, "Oh, blah, blah." And then we started chatting, and now we've been friends since. So that's cool.
I mean, no, that guy rules. And we need more people like him in the world to like.
Well,
and I want to be more like that myself.
I agree. I mean, that's why like when we did TCAF together, saw you drawing. And I was like, whoa, those drawings look cool as hell. Like, I was like, he can actually draw. Sick. So then what did I do? I reach around the seat. I'm sitting behind you on the plane, and a comic just comes around the corner, around the bend. And that was my comic. And I was like, here, you need to hold on to that. Like, you can keep that.
Yeah.
And you're like,
that was such a cool move. I was like, damn, that was great. I would never have done that.
I want to be, so I came up doing, like, fine art, and everybody was real snobby and, like, not cool. Like they're in their own little clique talking about their own little thing. They didn't want to talk to you at all.
Have you ever handed someone like a painting on an airplane? Like
no.
A canvas around
but because of that was my experience in the fine art world, I approach the comic book community with the other way, where it's like, I'm not trying to engage in snobbery and cool guy shit. I'm just trying to say, like, I love comics. Do you love comics? Cool, here's a comic. And like, I want to talk to everyone too. And like you're saying, like, Kevin is an inspiration. And it's been kind of not like that I base it off him, but I'm just saying, like, I approach everyone in earnest. And I want to talk about comics, and I want to support you and your comics. I mean, that's what this show's about.
Yeah. I
want to support you. I want to support your comics. And like Andrew Alexander was asking me, he's like, why don't you do a reading? And I'm like, it'll happen. I'm like, I'm the new guy. Yeah. I'm like, what do you want from the new guy? You want the new guy to be quiet and show up, you know? Like, if it's a basketball team, you come down the court, you get rebounds, you come down the court, you support the big man, you shove the ball into the set, you know, whatever. It's like, I'm here to support team comics.
Yeah.
Go comics, you know? So, like, I'm the new guy. Like, in my mind, the people that are having shows and, like, they're on tour, they're selling books, they have a new book out with a publisher, they've been doing the work the whole time. Well, I just showed up. So, like, let me get in the queue, do my reps, get my work in, and then I'll be there eventually too. Yeah. That's not the goal. The goal is to foster community. So, I love it. I love chatting everyone up. Which brings me to this chap who I also met in Toronto.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, when I met Grayson...
Are they from New York?
They're New York based, yeah. Cool. But when I met Grayson, I met them at the after party. Or maybe I met them at Mocha, actually. Oh, yeah, I met them at Mocha. Anyway, I met Grayson and their partner. They're super cool. And this book is awesome.
You guys are best buddies.
Yeah. And this is a Andrew Laird production, you know, coming off Frog Farm. Which I found out, Frog Farm, they have their studio with Cram Books. They're in the same studio.
Where?
I guess
you don't blow up their spot.
In Dumbo.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, yeah.
So I just assumed that Andy printed everything from the Rizzo lab.
I'm not sure. Is the Rizzo lab at NSVA?
NSVA, yeah.
Yeah, well, so Andrew is one of the teachers at the Rizzo lab.
Oh, you mean like his drawing studio? Or Cram, he has like a separate studio?
They have their own Rizzo in a separate studio, yeah.
Cool, I didn't know that.
So this is a Rizograph book. Very bright colors. How
are you feeling about Rizzo at the moment? We could cut this out later. I'm just curious.
No, it's fine. I like Rizzo. I think it's cool. I just think it all has some common threads. Mm-hmm. So like the work that is Rizzo printed, the ink binds it all together. It like all has the same texture. I feel like.
Which I think that's like for better or for worse. Like I don't know if it's like
I don't know why it's like how you use it, I guess.
Yeah,
that matters.
It's like it's appealing and it has a thing, but there's also like a feeling when I enter a show and it's like, oh, this is a Rizzo show. You know, there's a thing where it's like, oh wait, these prints all kind of look the same.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So it has a texture that binds it all together.
This though, I mean,
but they're doing things.
This is what makes it.
They're like
what makes it all worthwhile.
Grayson's okay. So Rizzo aside, this book rules and. Grayson's going in. He's tipping in books, and like the way that this interacts with the art is fantastic.
Oh wow, he's holding the book. I didn't notice that. This is amazing. I love this.
Yeah. And just the whole vibe of this book is very like up to the moment. You know, it's like it's our character here, the pink character, answers a Craigslist ad like we all have, and goes and takes a room in a house.
This is really funny.
Yeah, it's really good. He goes and takes a room in a house. With kind of this character is too cool, you know, kind of like the disaffected, too cool guy that's showing you around the house. Like, it really in a way that's like obnoxious, right? It's like, oh well, I do this, but you can't do that. Like
the Apple Watch guy.
Yeah. So anyway, so they're like showing him around the house, and I don't know, it's just very good.
Victoria's RBG.
It ramps up more and more, and I just think it's really funny. Grayson's got a great sense of humor.
It's great.
And at first, I didn't know what to make of it. Like this character, you know, and with the Rizzo pink and everything. At first, I was like, I didn't know what to make of it, so I just kind of put all that aside and let the book wash over me, and I'm really glad I did because it's so fun. I love the tipped-in books. Yeah, it's a really nice touch.
So nice. Yeah, I'm not anti-red. That's why I asked the question. I'm just curious how people feel about it because it had such a boom, like it just exploded and was everywhere. Right. And I have heard some people kind of just being like, yeah, more Rizzo bullshit, whatever.
I mean,
but we were talking about limited color palette earlier with the Oh Boy stuff, and I like this. I like that you're kind of. You know, again, what we were talking about the full color thing. Like, full color, sometimes people don't know anything about color. And so if you go in there and you just don't know anything about color theory and just color everything the color that it is, it looks like shit.
Totally.
So you have to be able to understand. It takes a long time to understand how to
100%. Use
color. You know, it's like an apple looks more red next to a green tablecloth than it does on a white tablecloth or something like that. Like, you can pop stuff out without using the thing that it is. You use color to actually like enhance whatever's going on or to set the mood or something like that.
Well, there's all these angles of color, like there's saturation, there's warmth, there's like cool. It's like it really just depends on what you're doing, but
even I guess, like these two spreads are really nice. Like this is clearly in the dark and this is in the light, so they're using those colors for a purpose.
I also think like when you were asking me, I wasn't quite sure what to say, so my answer was non-committal. But what I've realized since we've been talking about it is the pink. It's the pink that I see in all the Rizzo because they're using that same ink, right? So it's all the same pink color, and it all kinds of binds everything in that. It cordons it off into a. I like that you get the second half of the book on this side. That's
great.
So he uses the tipping in as a way to like. You get one half of the tipped-in book on the one side, and then you get to the other side of the book, and you get the other half. It's fantastic.
That's really great. Yeah, I took a Rizzo class at SVA with Aiden Fitzgerald of Cold Cube Press. And his thing was he says that fluorescent pink is a bully. It was like the way he described it. So like if you use pink, you better have like a good reason for doing it because it instantly defines your thing as like this is Rizzo made, and it also it overtakes a lot of the other colors. Any color you mix with fluorescent pink you're gonna know that fluorescent pink is still there. And so he was kind of like. He loves Rizzo. Like that guy's all about Rizzo. He prints everything on Cold Cube. It's all Rizzo. But he's like, let's get some more. Like at one point I was making prints and he was like,
but before you turn and finish your thought, but look at how well he's using
that
it.
rules. That's great.
This green, like he's getting this by layering up a bunch of colors at different values, and it does look really good. Like he's getting different tonalities of green, using the black really well.
What's the other color? So it's aqua, fluorescent pink, yellow, and black. So you get that. This green is yellow and fluorescent pink.
And blue, probably.
Yeah, I mean, sorry, yes. Exactly, yellow and aqua.
And there
actually might be all three of them at the same time.
Yeah, and this is the gray that's affecting it as it goes on last.
Right.
You can almost see the layers as it slightly misregisters through the process, but like
so that's
here,
really,
you can
that's
see
nice
you can see it right here. You can see the blue, you can see the pink.
It's also really well printed. It's easy to print this and
have it
just look like a mess. Like whoever printed this, I guess.
Right, that's a good point. It's really clear. It's really well printed because you're right. This could just turn into a muddy soup, but it doesn't. It's nice and green.
Yeah, it's really well. Registered.
I think
anyway, the Rizzo stuff is cool.
But that's what I noticed too. I agree with you. I think your teacher was right. The pink really just kind of like does overpower, and so if you're using it like it should be for this Muppet type character, you know what I mean? Like,
but this is great. These little spots are perfect.
Yeah,
like, this is awesome.
Doing a good job.
So yeah, I wish we saw more of the colors, and it's tricky too because like you can tell. Yeah, that must be all the colors at once. You can tell that. Certain things are printed like by a certain house because like those things, the drums are really expensive and it's one color per drum. So like if you're printing it at the Rizzo lab, you have access to those colors, and if you're printing it at Lucky Rizograph, you have those colors. And so like you can kind of tell where things come from, and everybody gets pink. Like every printing house gets pink.
Right.
And so it ends up kind of dominating the field or whatever.
There was also just that thing where everything was pink at one point, remember? Like you're walking around and like everyone was working in pink.
Yeah.
So like, when you asked me what is Rizzo, the first thought or like what I think about Rizzo, the first thought that popped into my head was like, I'm not trying to be a snob. Like, I like it. Do what you want to do. You know what I mean?
Completely. I'm not either. I'm just curious.
No, I don't think you are being snobby either. I'm just saying, like, it binds it all together with a common thread, is what I'm saying.
Totally. And I love the pink here. Like, I think this pink and black, pink as a single color, I think works so well. Because this feels like a little more intentional.
So here we're showing 2 examples of what you should do with the Rizzo.
I'm not should, but like things that appeal to me, I guess.
Okay, fair enough.
It's like
we don't want to be empirical, but I'm just saying, like, we're showing examples of 2 comics that use it very skillfully. We can say that
intentionally.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we were just talking about this. Let's talk about Cram.
Oh well, first of all, I'm very biased because
Cram rules.
Andrew Alexander, he's a very sweet man.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of Cram books.
He was around the Rizzo Lab when I was taking that class. We never really interacted that much.
Look at that pink.
Well, so the pink looks sweet in this context because it's like it's not mixed in, right? And this is just like a very controlled way to use it.
It's a primary color palette.
It's great. Also, I think this is Laura Lands. Like, I love this cover.
It's beautiful. Great. Yeah,
it's amazing. And also, like, you know, just.
I mean, plus I'm a legs guy.
So. Well, I was just thinking like that sometimes like. Your mind is
it's dedicated to me. It says Nick right there.
I think it says fuck, actually.
Nick, fuck. Very close.
So yeah, more Rizzo stuff, but like this stuff I think is really, really well printed, really well made.
This is cool too. Did they do that with a comb?
I could be, yeah. And it has this like dirty... The other thing I like about Rizzo is like...
beautiful.
Sometimes people try to make
is that Grayson back there?
It might be, actually.
This one right here. I think it's
it might be. I think... Relatable. Well, there's a thing in the front. Grayson Bear. Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
The ties that bind.
I could tell. I could see it. I could see the eyes. I could see the hand.
Mm-hmm. Angela, I don't know how to say Angela's name. Is it Fanch or Fanch?
Yeah, Fanch.
Fanch.
Yeah.
I love their work. Good.
I bought 2 original pieces from Angela.
Wow, really?
At the show at the Pit.
I want to see those actually.
So the Pit is not People's Improv Theater.
Okay.
It's
Thank goodness.
Yeah, its property is theft, and it's in.
Oh hell yeah! I didn't know that.
It's in like the lower Williamsburg area.
Okay. Yeah. We were talking about autobio earlier. Another person is doing really interesting. Autobio is such a loaded word. It sounds like pejorative, but it's just a way to label it. But I think they're doing.
It's also some people are just calling their title their comic autobio. You know, I want to do a little dabbling in the autobio because I think I have some interesting stories to tell, but I don't know anything about the meta. So it's interesting that I'm going to walk into autobio with like very little experience of what's going on in autobio.
You mean like what other people are doing?
Well, like the history. Yeah. I've seen comics writers say like, do you remember when autobio used to just be navel gazing? And then it got into stuff that was horribly traumatic. No, I know, but other people look at things through the lens of history, right? So they're like going to immediately be like, look at how naive the blah, 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 that kind of thing.
That makes sense. I think you should do it, though. I'd be curious to read it.
I'm going to do it.
I read the first, like, 2 or 3 stories in here. This one, like, blew me away. This is Steve Grove. I don't know anything about their work. But in terms of, like, classic cartooning with a totally bizarre, like, feel, like, this story, like, made me uncomfortable in the best way.
Oh, and cool.
I don't know. I'll have to read it again to really kind of know what's going on. But it's, like, I just thought this was so well done. And it's not really spoiling anything to look at it because, it's really hard to describe. But the variety of stuff in Cram, I think, is like really impressive and somehow doesn't feel random. I think like a great anthology to me, I think is like, it's curated and it's intentional, but it's not like I don't like an anthology that has like a theme. It's not like if it's like horror or sex or something like that. Like I think there's something more specific and more lovely when curation of the anthology becomes a comic in itself, because it's like when you think about 2 panels next to each other, 2 illustrations, your brain's connecting the dots.
Yeah.
When you think about all the stories in an anthology, your brain is connecting kind of like themes, and it's inviting you to kind of pay attention to why these are all in the same book. Sure. Even if it is totally random, like you are engaging with this as an experience.
So on the way, I caught a ride with Andrew on the way back from Pictou Beach.
Oh, cool.
And they were talking about how, when they curate these books, it's like all done just kind of like from the gut. He was like, I just kind of feel it, like I just kind of know who I want to have in the book.
Yeah.
And I don't know, actually I shouldn't say, but there's I'll tell you later.
Okay.
There's like a big name that's going to be in the next book because they just like what they're making so much, which I think, what a great vote of confidence, right?
That's amazing.
Like, is there any higher honor than one of the greats comes out of the wings to be like, I wanted to work with you. Yeah. Like, what a great thing.
Is it Gary Panter?
I'll never say.
All right,
I mean, I'll tell you after. I can't spoil it. It's their news.
Jack Lloyd, I think, is a really interesting cartoonist. I tabled next to him at TCAF, so we were talking. TCAF's 2-day show, so cool. you get to know your neighbors like pretty well. Jack Lloyd, really interesting cartoonist. Nice. Kind of like this. Who's the Wizards guy? Ralph, like Bakshi, vaguely Bakshi-esque.
I am the Wizards guy.
And I don't want to, yeah. Like, I hate when people are like, oh, your artwork reminds me of this other guy, but it's also just a reference point to talk about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, I used to be like, don't tell me what my art looks like. That used to be my stance. But now as I've gotten older, I realize it's like it's a big spider web. And we're all connected by these threads. Yeah. So if I say, this reminds me of this, I'm not comparing you to that.
Right.
I'm just saying, like you're saying, it's a jumping off point to talk about it. It's like, well, let's investigate the tapestry. Yeah. You know, how it was woven together.
Right. And I actually don't mind it sometimes if I've never... I appreciate it when I've never heard of the person. When someone's like, oh, your artwork reminds me of this. I'm like, oh, I'm going to check that out.
Unless they do it really snobbily, then I'm not into it. If they're like, oh, do you know the second coming of the first person that did this? And I'm like, no. And they're like,
all right, bye.
How quaint.
And then they throw your book back on the table and walk away. This I love talking about Rizzo technique.
That's beautiful. This book is beautiful.
Yeah, it looks really great. But this kind of like opacity as the windshield
I like it.
Works so well because it draws your eye into the open window. Like this window's down, the windshield is up, and it's like there's some kind of like opaque layer on top of that. That's using the medium of printing for the medium of the storytelling. That just seems really cool.
I mean, as you're flipping through this, I love it. Like, this another example of like very skillful risograph.
Yeah, and this is kind of what Aiden was talking about. Rizzo is like use the quote unquote ugly colors, like use the colors that people don't use for effect, and like you still get this little punch. I don't know if that's pink.
There is pink there, yeah.
Yeah, you still get this punch, but it's not on this page at all.
But the pink is off. It's like purposely off register, so you just get the highlight. Of pink,
and it doesn't exist here at all. So I think there's something about
using shock.
It really jumps out at you when you kind of do that. Anyway, this guy's great, Jack. Lloyd, really nice.
There's a lot of great names in this, actually.
Canadian, Montreal, I think it was Montreal.
I'm kind of new to comics, right? So I don't know everything, but I'm really eager to learn about it, and I'm happy to be here.
What do you mean learn everything?
No, I say I don't know everything.
I mean, everything. Like what? Like,
I just meant like I don't have as much context to draw from. That's all I mean. Like I feel ill prepared, right? But what I'm saying is like I'm so earnest about my love for the medium that I'm happy to like learn everything that I can, right?
I think it's kind of cool. Like I like when people come at the medium from a different angle. Like you haven't studied it and you haven't like gone to school for it. It's like I like directors that haven't gone to film school. Like they just watched a lot of movies. That's interesting.
The cool thing too, it's like I really feel that I want to do a book that is way looser and more interesting. Visually, like I can feel the pressure building up internally.
We've done so many of these too. Like
I think when I was doing my books, it was like about just really putting in the time to get the repetitions, right? Mm-hmm. You got to put in the hours to like get.
You got to shoot the free throws. You got to
climb that ladder. Yeah, right. You got to do the Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours. I don't even.
I will say that on the record.
On the record, one of my friends was at a party and he was like. Blah 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 blah. Fuck Malcolm Gladwell, and then he was right there, sitting next to him at that party.
That's funny. I met Malcolm Gladwell briefly, also at a Boardwalk Empire rap party. I don't know why the hell he was there, but it was a table of like, it was Malcolm Gladwell, Questlove.
Amazing.
And someone else, I forget. I didn't talk to any of them. I just like shook his hand. Whatever.
It's not name dropping if you live in New York City because these people are just everywhere.
I mean, I was there. We were getting
They're literally everywhere.
We would just go to these rap parties because Christina would work on these shows or whatever, and we get to go and we just get like hammered on free booze and like just go talk to people. I met John Slattery. I talked to him for a few minutes. The guy from Mad Men. He's with the white hair.
Oh yes! Yeah. Johnny Slats.
Yeah. So, this is just a funny like. I'm not trying to sound cool.
That dude's great.
It was hilarious that me, Johnny Nobody.
He's from Boston, right?
I don't know. I don't know anything about him.
Yeah.
He was a nice guy though.
Let's talk about the next book. All right.
Yeah, do it.
Okay. Here's the $500 question. Mike, do you know what the title of this book is?
Two-Fisted Mangaka?
It is Mangaka. Do you remember that because I told you that?
No.
Okay.
I was just like, it's like, you know how they say that like when you read words, you're more reading the shape of the word? Two-Fisted Mangaka, got it.
Two-Fisted Mangaka.
Mangaka.
This book was given to me by Floyd Tangeman.
Okay.
And you can see it right there. Tanjamanga. So Floyd is a character. He told me that he was recently shot in a drive-by shooting 3 times. Shit. And he showed me the bullet wounds. So
wait, the first time you met him?
No, I met Floyd before, but
okay.
I guess we like officially met this time, you know? There's meetings that you have in passing, and then there's meetings where you're in the back of a car riding for 40 minutes or something, and that's what it was. So this is the same car with Andrew.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I'm in there with Floyd and Andrew and his partner. And Floyd gives me this comic and then goes, that'll be $12.
Hell yeah.
And I go, all right, fine, you got me.
That's a baller move.
Yeah. Put it in my hand, let me look at it, and then go, $12.
That you touch it, you butt it.
Yeah. But he wasn't insistent in that way.
No,
he was
I
just
know.
like,
I'm just kidding.
He was just like, yeah, it's $12. And I was like, okay, cool.
This shit is raw.
Yeah, it's great.
It's really cool.
And so this is reminiscent too of a lot of the work I'm seeing from the younger generation, right? Mm-hmm. Like I'm not saying that this isn't unique. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is I'm seeing a rawness from the younger generation that is kind of irrespective of any of the kind of like hurdles or gates that you had to pass through to make a comic in the past and be taken seriously.
Yeah.
There's no gates anymore.
Yeah.
And that's cool. In the same respect, it's skewing much more fine art as well.
Yeah, and I think it really feels like people who just like want to crank stuff out and they want to get it done, and that actually speaks sort of counter to what you were just saying about like putting the work in or whatever. But I think it's just a different approach. I think there's an ethos of like I want to put it down and I want to get it out, and I think that I wonder if that comes with like, you know, posting online or something.
Oh, right, like the immediacy of social media
used to getting it
has made it like you don't want to wait for it to come out.
Right.
The only reason I moved this down was because I wanted to show this specifically.
Oh yeah, you and I
talked about this, right? Okay, so if this were me and I had done my Copic marker over the pen and it had smeared to this degree, there's no way you'd ever see it. I would destroy it.
Yeah, I would destroy it.
Right?
I would set it on fire.
But Floyd, like maybe, I don't know, maybe that is something about like growing up where the internet has always been a thing. You're like, in social media, you like post. I don't want to put that on Floyd actually, because I think Floyd has like a flip phone and is not on social media at all.
That's awesome.
So like, yeah, that's great, right? But something about having the immediacy, I think, at least as a motivator, I knew people that would draw like this. You know, they would draw intensely and just draw until it's finished. Mm-hmm. And so...
Yeah, this is kind of like, I don't want to call it outside or folk quality or something, but you're just doing the thing because you feel compelled to do it, not because you think it needs to be a certain way. There's no rules to it.
It's honest, it's straightforward, it's very direct, and it's strong in the kind of like the energy and with which it's put down.
Yeah, and you'd be hard pressed to look at something like this and say like, to what we were just saying earlier, it'd be hard to look at this and be like, oh, it reminds me of... What?
Well, this kind of reminds me of Panther.
A little bit, but it's like way more like rugged. It's like you take all the Panther and like it's like Panther Junkyard or something. Yeah, but it has its own quality too. Like where like the Venn diagram is thin.
Sure. Yeah, right. There's not. I don't, and that's probably why I said Panther like 4 times, because I don't have a lot to compare it to. Right? It's like.
I wonder what they would say their influences are.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Or if they even exist, or they're just.
I mean, it's called mangaka, so like, how much of this is based mangaka underground? So how much of this is like, you know, straight from the horse's mouth?
Horses plural.
I love this. Approved by Frankenstein.
Yeah, but the funny thing too about this is like the name mangaka. Like nothing about this to me screams manga.
No,
like, I would never say that this person reads a lot of manga.
There's some graffiti influences here too, because you see like names scrawled across everything. And look, this is a Panther thing right here. Actually, right on the cover, these pencils.
Yeah, that's true. The pencils with the face, for sure.
But I mean, okay, I'm only saying that because that's my limited, vocabulary, right? Like I have a shallow pool from which I'm drawing from.
Sure.
If we talked about what this was, I'm sure there's stuff that I'm not privy to. that they were influenced by. However, the one thing, or like another thing I could say rather, is that it changes so drastically throughout, which I love because I do not anything like this, but I do try to change up my work. And with me, it comes from a restlessness. Like, I just want to do different stuff all the time. So, like, that's where I get that motivation. You know, here, like, I was saying graffiti influences on the cover, and, like, we have graffiti here. So, when I was at the Koch warehouse, Joseph Koch said to me that he thinks the #1 most influential artist in history was Vaughn Baudet. Wow. Because Vaughn Baudet created bubble letters, and then that got assimilated into graffiti, and that went worldwide.
Interesting.
So, like, Vaughn Baudet is the great-great-grandfather of graffiti, and I was like...
I know, I've heard people insert him into that kind of world, but I had never heard of that in terms of influence. That's interesting.
Well, I don't know that he's responsible solely for...
awesome. These characters are fucking awesome.
Yeah, these rule.
I love that. There's a cool collage element to a lot of stuff too. Like there's stamps on one of the other pages. Right. There's these funky letters on here too.
Yeah, he's going in like, and look, it says for cram. So maybe this will show up in a cram book.
This would be tough to read. I guess you'd have to CMYK it. You have to separate it.
Yeah. But
unless there's a friend named Cram.
Cram, double cram.
Krampus.
There's a guy, Cram Backward is one of the... Cram Backward on Instagram is one of the Santos sisters.
Oh, really?
But his name's Mark, so Cram Backward is Mark.
Got it.
Which I just put together the other day.
That's funny.
So this book looks great. I mean, you cannot deny the power and intensity with which this book was made.
I mean,
there's hundreds of hours of drawing poured in here, obviously.
I'm dying to see this person's sketchbook. Unless this is the sketchbook.
I mean, it feels like it might be, but...
I want to see these in person. I want these, like, on a wall at a gallery show.
They're wonderful, yeah. And very cool. Floyd is very chill. Like, very cool. Plays Magic. We're going to play Commander together.
I'm going to be that guy and say I wish it wasn't glossy paper.
Glossy cover, yeah.
And the inside. Like this is clearly glossy? Not like the.
It's like treated.
The black and white stuff is cool, but the color, the shine, this kind of flat. Like this is clearly not drawn on shiny paper.
Right.
And the shiny, whatever. It's a tiny quibble, whatever.
No. I get it. I mean, talk about all the parts of the process. You got another book you want to talk about? Floyd, well done. This book rules.
Yeah, I want to talk about this book. I did not get this at a show.
Okay.
Talk about this anyway.
That's okay. Yeah, of course.
I did not get this at a show we've been to lately. This is well, I figure we cut that out.
Okay, yeah.
I did not get this.
I'm not cutting anything out. My editing style is not.
That's fine. Just drop it out. Be like Floyd and just crank it out. Put it up.
That's right.
Anyway.
Put it up.
This book, River Rangers. This guy Henry McCausland, I think is how you pronounce his name, has been putting these out. He did a book called 8 Lane Runaways, which was also published in singles and then published by Fantagraphics in the collected edition. Also fantastic. But I've been buying these from him when he's been putting them out. He hand marbles these covers. So it's like nice. With the paper, you put some ink in a dish and you lay the paper down, and then it just absorbs the kind of like texture. So every cover is different. Every issue you get is your own, which is great. It's hand sewn in the binding, and like this could come across like a little gimmicky, but the book itself I just think is like so fantastic, and he is such an incredible draftsman, or they are such an incredible draftsperson. Every issue is basically like there's little sticks and things floating through the river, and someone gets to the river and picks something up, and they have some sort of experience with it.
That's cool.
Very few panel borders. These pages are like super open, but just lovely, like joyous drawing. Like these make me so happy, even the ones that have like some weird violence in them and stuff. There's some kind of like beautiful joy about the way these are assembled, and he does these perfect, like the pages are laid out so clearly. It's really hard, I think, to compose a page without panel borders that reads really clearly.
It's also interesting that every page is like a progression.
Mm-hmm.
So like the story progresses, but each page is like a progression of a character.
Yeah.
Which is nice. Like that's a very pleasing thing.
It's great. And so the first, there's 4 characters. There's this guy. So I read this twice in a row, which I never do. Usually I read a comic and I put it aside, but I read this last night straight through, and I read straight through it again. There's 4 characters, and it introduces them all in the same way. And then there's just all this like, I don't know how to describe it other than just calling it like comics magic. It's just like things you can't do in any other medium, like tracking there's a dancer, there's a poet, there's a I forget, each character has like their own thing, and they're using these sticks they found on the river in their own kind of ways, and then they have a conflict with each other. But there's a couple little tricks in here that I feel like it does. This page I think I'll remember kind of forever, which is it's this comic idea of like he's entering the scene with a donkey, and there's nothing over here. And the next panel he's carrying a plant, and the donkey's over here.
And
the next panel he's carrying all this other, and there's a table, and he's like carrying. I guess that comes in later.
Yeah.
But it's like your brain knows he's doing it, but he doesn't draw it. You know, it's like your brain is inserting. You know what's happening.
Also, time's passing.
And time is passing, right?
Yeah.
And then what's happening too is like.
Oh, and he's drawing.
He's drawing it. Yes, exactly.
Cool.
And so he's setting up this still life and drawing it on the stick. This page is like I keep hounding him on Instagram. I'm like, are you selling these pages? And he's like, no.
The more you ask, the less he's gonna.
I know, but there's so many of these. There's a few. There's like a dancing sequence in one of the other pages. There's a fight sequence in one of the earlier ones that's just like unbelievable. And I'm like totally obsessed with these books. I love them. You can order them from him directly, and I don't want to spoil these either because they're short.
Yeah, don't spoil them.
But every time I get one of these in the mail, I'm just like thrilled, and I want to hype this guy up as much as possible.
I like it. River Rangers.
6 of 12 too. That is ambitious.
6 of 12.
But please do it forever. Hope somebody collects it and gives him $1 million.
I like it. I want to see them.
I have them all.
You know, sometimes I'll find an artist like that, and I do this with like friends too. But like after we've known each other for a while, I just go, okay, give me one of everything.
Yeah,
just give me one of everything.
I'm gonna start doing that. I think
I do that. I did it with Bayer.
A table special. I mean, as a table.
Oh, as a table.
I would have like if you want one of everything.
Table
it's
special.
$40.
Totally.
Here's an envelope.
It's so smart,
like
and
that.
you should have them already bagged.
Yeah.
So you can just pull
with
the
a
thing
stamp
and send it to them,
or drawing on them.
Like just sign a couple of them or whatever. Like get them prepped and ready, and table special bundles, and you just give them out. That's so cool.
What do you say like? If you go to a restaurant, I guess you never order one of everything. It's like, what am I trying to say here?
A pre-fee menu.
A prefix.
Yeah, a pre-fee menu or like an omakase.
Yeah.
That's better. Keep it in a manga center. Keep it in localized to a place that has comics.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna put this down, right?
Like coup de grace.
And here's the thing: when I review this or like whatever, as we look at this, I immediately want to be like funk flex and be like, "It's going down, my boy, Magilla!" Like and just like yell about it. Like that's how hyped I am about this. Yeah. So when I talk about this, the Sunday Fundies edition, right here I have the one from March 3rd.
How often do they do this?
That's a good question. Actually, I'm not sure, but look at this lineup.
Yeah, I don't know a lot of these people, but
I don't know all of them, but like Jay Stevens puts out Dwellings.
Mm-hmm.
You know that comic, right? Like the cutesy horror comic.
Ryan Heshka has like a fine arts / comics world where he's like selling oil paintings and also comics. Some of the comics are painted too, which is really cool.
Michael Kennedy's homie lives in the UK. Makes really great like formalist deconstruction comics, but they all center around like blackness, which I think is really cool. You know, he's really really smart, and I love his comics. We got, I saw Tommaso.
I've actually never read any Rich Tommaso comics.
Like Black Phoenix and like, there's a couple other books that they do, right?
He has a thing where like, it's a thing that doesn't appeal to me. I'm not bragging on it, but he's like kind of constantly referencing other artists, and I'm not totally sure who like Rich Tommaso the artist is.
I mean, we got Audra Stang, James Cochran. Over here, James the Stanton did that Nartoons book.
I don't know that one.
Chris Visions, you know, Chris is one of the first artists that I bought original art off of.
Oh, nice.
In comics, anyway.
In New York?
No, they're based out of... I don't know where they're based out of. I'm sorry. I think it might be Baltimore, but I'm not sure. So
represent.
But Chris is very cool. And for a while there, as they were getting their reps in, they were selling work for like affordable prices. They were doing these series where they'd work on different colored papers. So they did a bunch on red papers and then did a bunch on blue paper, and then, you know, like characters that would have that in there, right? I got like a Judge Dredd drawing off them. Anyway, this lineup is unbelievable.
And there's so many people
strong.
Like curating. If they put this out regularly, getting this many people in it is like a feat. It's a curating feat.
It's insane. Yeah, it's insane.
So this dude must be pretty fun to work with.
I mean, there's 30 cartoonists here.
I guess, yeah.
I mean, you know, what is this? It's 9 per row.
I can't do math. 9 times 4 was 100.
Yeah, it's 100. That's right.
Don't teach math.
36. I don't know. So anyway, so an amazing lineup here. Okay, let's just get into the comic because. When I talked to Chad about this, I was like, oh, yeah, good on you. Like, they're getting rid of comics in the newspaper. Like, we don't need them.
We'll make a newspaper that's all that.
Put out a comic. Yeah, and that's what I was giving them props for. Like, this is a newspaper that's just all comics and nothing else. I love this. Like, it's like the journey.
You get a big Sunday strip
all the way
end.
to Sunday. Yeah.
There's the interesting print quality on these newsprint things where, like, they're not really printed offset, but a lot of people try to approximate it anyway.
You think this isn't print offset?
I don't think so. I feel like this is like a weird digital on newsprint thing. But actually, I might be wrong because you can see the kind of registration marks up here. I might be wrong about that.
I thought like they only do newsprint on giant offset prints.
You might be right.
Or presses.
It has a quality to it where it looks so precise. I was like, I don't quite trust it.
Yeah, right. Like it's registered really well.
Yeah.
I understand.
Maybe it's just really well printed. I don't know. But like, look here. This registration mark only has one color on it.
Right. There's no different colors.
Or maybe that's a trim mark.
That might just be the fold.
Or a fold line. Yeah. I don't know. Anyway.
No, it's okay. That's what we're here for. We're here to nerd out about process
stuff. Get in the weeds.
Yeah, get in the weeds.
This I like Audra's like marker coloring. I think is really smart. So this is we were talking about Rizzo earlier. Like these are smart color choices. Like right. They're not coloring something. They're not coloring like the gray of the garage door and the gray of this thing and the grass is this color. Like to blue out the background, that's a smart mood choice. That sets a scene and sets a feeling. And then you get this tiny little yellow in the car. Like that's a mood. That's a feeling. That's like color theory use.
This I saw them do this reading in Columbus.
Oh
actually. Yeah, they did a reading of this. I find that when someone reads their own work, I get such a better understanding of it.
That's interesting. I was going to say earlier when you mentioned readings, I still don't totally understand the comic reading thing.
You're just engaging with people. It's like, how many times do you get comics and you just put them on the stack and never read them?
I pretty much read everything I buy.
That's amazing. To be honest.
I read it at least once.
I mean, I read it, but I'm saying I don't read it immediately.
No, I don't.
Also, you have to remember there's a lot of people who regard comics still as like a childish medium that's not to be taken seriously.
Yeah.
Still, like my friend's wife won't watch animation. She thinks it's for kids.
Of any variety?
Of any kind at all. She doesn't read comics at all. She's a history professor and she's like, I don't read comics, they're for kids. And I'm like,
should show her some really vile
I'm like,
animation.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. I was like, if anything, right? Like she's a history professor. I mean,
sure some Von Baudet cartoons.
Or just like show her who's the guy that does like the journal, like journalistic comics about
Joe Sacco?
Joe Sacco, yeah. I should be like, here, check out these Joe Sacco comics.
Which are probably going to become
pretty relevant at the
moment.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, McGilla, look at this. Like, just first of all, imagine working with one artist or two or three, and what like herding cats.
Oh yeah,
that is.
Those smoke signal issues that Gabe puts out are like just one person for the whole book. I'm sure that's a huge.
And by the way, I spent time with Chad. I met Chad at TCAF, and we instantly vibed. and then I hung out with him in Columbus, and we had so much fun. Mm-hmm. And like Chad is the homie. So
where does Chad live? He's in Amsterdam.
Amsterdam, yeah. And he does a comic called The Re-Up.
I'll have to check
The Re-Up, yeah. Real cool. Anyway, this rules. Here's Jay Stevens' piece.
Oh, I have seen.
Yeah, the dwelling stuff. Yeah.
Remember?
This is what I was talking about. Yeah. Jay Stevens super cool too. Had a press. I think was part of a press. I'm not sure where Jay is based out of either, but I met them at TCAF as well. Anyway, like getting to know people, seeing their work. It's really fun. It's so impressive.
I mean, the anthology format to me is like.
There's Michael.
I don't really want to read like a long form graphic novel right now, just for me. Like I want to read individual things that people are putting out on their own, and I want to read collections of groups of people's things. Like
there's two Michaels here. Michael talking about Duppies. Duppy is like a name for like a ghost or a demon.
Oh,
right, in a certain tradition. And then another Michael on the other side, Michael Hacker.
Love that. Brain.
Talking about mental health. This is great. This is like super fun. Yeah. Both of these comics are great.
I read also nice color on both of these.
Yeah. I read through these and really enjoyed them. Honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Like I enjoyed this content.
How do you get this anthology?
Well, Chad handed this to me.
I guess somebody else wanted to get it.
Oh yeah, well, okay. There's definitely something on here. Let's talk about it. So you can probably go right here.
We can put that in the comment again.
Yeah, chadbilly.eu.
Cool.
Yeah. And we can find these.
Yeah, this is awesome. Have you read the Ron Wimberly newspaper thing?
I haven't, no.
I think I have 2 of them.
I just want to give everybody's page. Yeah, there's Tommaso's Black Phoenix.
Oh, yeah. See, this I feel like he's directly referencing so many other things. I don't see him, the artist, in this. It's like it's too pastiche or something.
Sure.
Pastiche.
I don't, like I was saying before, I'm kind of, this reminds me of like
Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's like a Ren and Stimpy kind of thing.
I think that guy got canceled.
Did he?
John Krasinski.
Wait, isn't that the guy from The Office?
That's not his name, yeah.
Schwantz?
No, what the fuck is that guy's name?
Oh, the Ren and Stimpy guy.
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, really? I was like, I don't even know this guy.
I'm just going to say it's John Krasinski because I don't like that guy either.
Anyway, on every page of this is high quality illustration.
Yeah.
I mean, like, every page looks good. There's not a single page where I was like, ew, no. All these pages I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah, totally. And I love that you have to like I'm a fan of the giant obnoxious book. I love that Kramer's book. I love the Ninja book. I love the Chris Ware monograph. Like, I'm a fan of this giant thing you have to like engage with. And so the newspaper format is like that. It's like you can't like flip through this easily. You have to look at it with intention, and you have to like hold it in a certain way, and you have to.
It's also really satisfying to like fold the paper back, and fold it over and read the comic. Like, this style of paper is called a quarter fold because you take one big spread and fold it into 4s, right?
Yeah.
So like you take this giant paper, you fold it twice, and you got a quarter fold, and like I love this. Like, this feels like comics propaganda in the best way. You know, it's like a pamphlet that you're handed at a rally for comics, and it's like pro comics, and all these people have entree. Like, it's an inclusive format.
Yeah, and it's beautiful. It's really well made. All the art was incredible, but it's also not precious. Like, you don't care if you ding the corners. You don't care if you throw this in your bag and it gets wet. Like, the lovely thing about these shows we've been going to, especially, is like the self-published stuff is like, it's low stakes, but it's also, it's lovely, but it's you don't worry about it. It's not a precious object.
To that point, like, I come from like, my dad was a collector, so everything went into like bags and stuff, and like he would take great care with his things, which I appreciated. You know, I thought it was good. It was like a sign of presence and respect for the things. And so when I'm walking around these indie comic shows, I'm always thinking like, which one of these books is going to be worth $100,000? You know, like
when I'm dead.
In 20 years, one of these people is going to be super famous.
Yeah.
So which one of their self-published, like only 100 copies were made item is going to be like a Babe Ruth rookie card that was like in a bubblegum pack? You know what I mean? Like, I think about that a lot, actually.
That's funny. Well, that's one of the things I love so much about that Seeds and Stems book that Simon Hanselman put out.
Oh yeah, sure.
When he put that out, he was saying stuff on Instagram like, "Fuck you bootleggers," or you like if you haven't sold these on eBay yet, like, you missed your chance because now anybody can read them. And I just like that idea of kind of taking the hoarder mentality out of it. These are meant to be read. I want people to read them.
Yeah, engagement.
I only made 100 because I could only afford to make 100, not because I wanted to drive the price up or whatever.
Yeah, somebody told me too. They were like, "Thank you so much for keeping your books in print," and I was like, "What?" Like, I didn't understand what they meant, but they meant like, you made 100 in the first print run, like, but I wanted one, and I'm not one of the first 100 people to get one, so like, thank you for reprinting it. And I was like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, cool. It's like the Fife stuff, like the Copra Press, like or Bergen Street Press. It's like, if you miss that original run, like, it was out of print, and then they were like hundreds of dollars on eBay or whatever.
The original ones still are the hand numbered ones.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Worth some money. But this is the thing.
I have the compendiums.
Yeah, that sounds great. This is the thing that Frank Santoro talks about too, about publishing deals. I don't know if you read like the hype he puts out, the newsletter.
Oh, no. He gave you a shout out in the one not that long ago.
That's not why I brought it up.
But that came out in Comics Club when you weren't there. Yeah, they were like, yo, your boy got a shout out in Frank Santoro's thing. No. And I was like, that's my boy.
But I love, thank you. But I love Frank's approach to publishing, because he's had a couple of things he said about like, it might sound great to publish with Drawn and Quarterly or Fantagraphics or whatever, but like here's actually how it shakes out.
Right.
And then like
I'd like to see that.
The thing goes out of print eventually, right? And then the books either get warehoused or they get sold at a discount, but the thing is gone. And like, if you control the means of distribution, this is part. He's one of the people that talked me into buying the copy machine. Is like. I don't do a print run. If someone orders a comic, I print it and send it out. Like it never goes out of print unless I decide it doesn't look good anymore. I'm tired of it or whatever. Like, but there's no run. You never run out. You just make them, and it's different from print on demand with somebody else because a lot of times those books look like shit. But like,
no. The print on demand stuff is not great.
It's not great.
You don't know what you're getting.
Nope.
The blacks aren't black.
Yeah.
It comes on these. It has these weird end papers that'll just have like a UPC code on it. It like there's no consideration. You can't print on the inside covers.
The binding's terrible.
The binding's weird. It's all just like pretty shoddy. And like, okay, like I mean, I get it. Like a book's not supposed to cost $100. Like the purpose of the book was so that it could be distributed to people and it was affordable. Like you could give it away, you could hand it out to people. That was what a book was for.
Yeah.
And now we've gone back to the point now where it's like, if I want to get the latest like E.C. Seeger, Popeye Fantagraphics really collection, it's like $100.
Yeah.
And like that's like illuminated manuscript prices. Like there's no monk like bleeding with his thumbprints on every page, with like the gilding and everything.
Yeah.
I just want.
Although I would buy that.
I just want old Popeye cartoons, and I don't want to spend $100 on them.
I had this experience with Dick Tracy recently. I was like, you know what? I read that. Have you heard that thing about how he what's the Dick Tracy guy's name?
Fascist? Oh, Chester Gould.
Chester Gould, yeah, fascist. But you ever heard that story about how like every time he killed a character, he would have like a funeral for them in the backyard? So his backyard was full of gravestones of like characters in Dick Tracy. He's a crazy person.
So weird.
But I read that story and I was like, that's kind of great. I love that. And I've never read Dick Tracy before, and so I got online and I was like, reading Dick Tracy is literally impossible unless you're a rich person.
I see. Because you can't.
It's like there's no floppy.
Access.
You could buy like some random Sundays or whatever, but if you want to read it in any kind of sequence, it is fucking impossible.
Right.
Because it's these short print runs of these big hardcovers that are so expensive.
Right.
And so I got on archive.
What's
.org.
Archive?
Archive.org. Do you know about Archive?
No, what's
Archive.org?
archive.org?
We're going to talk about this later.
Just quickly tell me in 2 sentences what archive.org is.
Archive.org originally was created to preserve parts of the internet that had been phased out.
Oh, okay.
So it started as this. I think it started as this thing called the Wayback Machine.
I remember the Wayback Machine. I was going to say Wayback Machine.
That's part of Archive.
Oh, okay, interesting.
It has since evolved into this kind of like quasi file hosting site.
Huh.
But dude, there are endless amounts of comments on this thing. It's awesome. And I found some of the Dick Tracy on there. But
cool.
Reading Dick Tracy on an iPad is like a weird experience. Like I'm gonna read it on a nice paper.
I don't want my comics to be digital for me. Like I'm gonna. At one point, I got an iPad and books like 2 through 4 or whatever, or 2 through 4 and 6 or whatever. Like a couple of my books are digital because I got an iPad and I was like, oh, look at this new tool that I can play with, right? But then the iPad got corrupted or something and they couldn't retrieve the files and I almost lost my whole book.
Whoa.
And I was like, I will never use an iPad again.
Yeah.
And I went back to paper and now it's only been paper, ink on paper, pencil on paper, that's it. And I scan it obviously and I like put my zips in digitally. Yeah. But I'm saying like I want to use the computer as little as possible.
Me too.
That's where I'm at right now. I cannot stand the computer. I want to throw my phone in a lake.
Yeah.
Like I just don't want it. Like I want to have like a Faraday box where you put all of your stuff. A Faraday box is like it like emits no signals, lets nothing. It's like the old lead box for the kryptonite Superman trick, But like I want people to like put all your tech in that box when you come in my house.
Yeah.
Like I don't want any of the algorithms listening to what I say, that kind of thing.
I don't see the computer as a creative tool. Like I don't sit down. There's not a part of me that sits down at the computer and feels inspired in any way. Like I have a paper and a drawing thing. Like that's what gets me going. I don't engage with a computer in a creative way.
I agree. I also just think it's a total time thief. Like every time I look at my phone to do something, it goes brrr and detours me into Instagram, and there I find myself in the cul-de-sac of whatever we call pop culture now. It's like it's a time thief. And it actively makes me dumber. Yeah. Like everything that I've learned about celebrity has been against my will. All right, so I'm ready to get out of here. All right, let's just say a little goodbye. What's your name?
My name is Michael.
And what
Shea Wright.
Yeah, what are you working on, Michael Shea Wright?
I'm working on an action thing. I don't have a name for it yet. It's 2/3 done.
I've seen it. It's very good.
Thank you. It's about a personal trainer who's the hero because I don't want to do anything about guns. There are guns in it, but they're all like dummies use the guns. So it's just like an opportunity to draw physical people, physicality, whatever. But I'm Susan_Saran Wrap on Instagram. I post some snippets up there, and you can find my web store through that too.
And a new comic up there, Freakied.
Oh yeah, Freaky. That's
Freakied Part 5 just came out, right? Or?
No, I haven't posted it yet today.
Oh, okay. Freaky Part 4 just came out.
4 out of 6.
All right, well, check him out, Susan_Saran Wrap on Instagram. Even though we hate technology, we know that it is a necessary part. Well, it's just a necessary part of how we communicate with people. It's like it connects us, even though they're just constantly interjecting ads into our experience. You know, it's like, remember when YouTube was like, we don't know how to monetize it.
Oh man, I was just talking to somebody about early YouTube the other day and how amazing it was.
Yeah, it's great.
It was just like it was like America's
music,
Home
media.
It was America's Funniest Home Videos, but forever. It was infinite and no bullshit like Tom Bergeron,
no ads,
or Bob Saget, rest in peace.
And my name is Nick Forker. You can find me on Instagram at Nicholas Forker, all one word. Nicholas has an H in it for people who don't know or aren't named Nicholas.
Put it on the screen.
Yeah, I mean we will, but I'm just gonna say too. What if we do like a podcast where it's audio only, right? Sure. Anyway, Nicholas Forker, Forker on Instagram, and I have been working on a comic called Island for the past few years, ever since the pandemic actually. So it's the adventures of an anthropomorphic eyeball. It's equal parts humor and philosophy and fantasy adventure. So I kind of have this eyeball kind of meandering through dreams and fantasy lands and New York City where we both live.
Yep.
So yeah, thanks for coming out. And as always, if you like what we're doing, send us a little note.
Yeah. If you have work that you want to share with us, we'd love to see it.
Yeah, send us work. Yeah, we'll love to talk about it. Basically,
we'll pay you for it. We're not trying to get anything for free.
Yeah, that's right. Basically, the point of this YouTube channel is to shine a light on people who are actively making things now.
Yeah. So
like self-published, right? Independent makers, creators.
There's no rules or anything. It's just I guess it's kind of like to bring, like the vibe at these comic shows is like discovery, right? So we're trying to like highlight some of the discoveries we make, I guess.
Yeah, and I think we're both still very curious. We like talking about the ideas that go into making these things. We like talking about process. I mean, like, I care a lot about comics and I care a lot about people making comics. I found the community to be really rewarding and warm. And I want to give back to that community by, like, amplifying people's signals and talking about the stuff that jumps out at us that we love.
Yeah. And
everything in between. So, join us again. We'll hang out. You guys can draw. You people can draw while we're talking about comics.
Yeah.
All right.
Toodles.
Toodles.